Rise of Skywalker is right around the corner, and that means it's time to dive back into all the Star Wars movies. And this week's review will be Return of the Jedi, the 6th installment, or the 3rd installment in the original trilogy, whichever way you want to look at it. Guys, this is going to be a fun one, of course, and I cannot wait to get into it. Of course, I do have my guest this week, Austin Burke, with me. Austin, thank you so much for joining me. How this is going to go, guys, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. He's going to give you his thoughts, and of course, we'll dive right into this review right now. May the Force be with us all as we continue into our road to Rise of Skywalker. Again, guys, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you guys are new here. And of course, make sure to go hit that like and subscribe button also over to Austin Burke because he's a phenomenal guy. But guys, let's get started. After a daring mission to rescue Han Solo from Jabba the Hut, the rebels dispatched to Endor to destroy the second Death Star. Meanwhile, Luke struggles to help Darth Vader back from the dark side without falling into the Emperor's trap himself. Return of the Jedi. Whew. This one's a good one. This one's a really good one. I have a lot of fun with this one, and just straight off the bat, the score is great. John Williams, always a fantastic job on the score. I think the thing with Return of the Jedi for me is that I think the action sequences in here are top-notch, some of the best of the whole franchise, especially everything in space. The space combat, there's been nothing unlike it ever, and I mean, from the trailers from Rise of Skywalker, it's like JJ's like, hold my beer, please. I'm about to show you what's going to happen. I mean, time will tell if that's true, but it's going to be pretty high up to even hit that feast of how great the space battle is and how intense it is, and the way that they edit it all together is really good. And really every other action sequence in here is great. The Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader stuff of them fighting back and forth one another, bam, 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 just you feel every single lightsaber hit in those moments. And it's one of the most emotional and passionate like fight scenes within the whole franchise in general. But even from there, everything in Endor with the Ewoks and Han Solo and Princess Leia, there's so much fun action on there. You kind of feel difference of action. You feel this passionate, emotional fight scene with Darth Vader between Luke, you have the intense battle sequence, and then you have kind of the more lighthearted, fun stuff with the Ewoks as they're firing, taking over AT-STs with Chewbacca. There's so many little fun things that kind of go into those particular realms. And then, of course, you have the beginning of the film that happens to be with all Luke Skywalker trying to save Han Solo and their mission to get him out of Jabba the Hutt's palace. Lots of fun stuff in there and how he handles that whole ensue. All the action here is great. The Return of the Jedi, though, for me, is just the progression of all these characters over these 3 films, and where we really see all of them. Their chemistry is off the charts, sparking, and you just see how much they have grown since that first film and to this one now, especially when it comes to Han Solo, my favorite character throughout the whole franchise. His relationship, his character arc in here is so established, and really the thing that really makes me happy, actually, is many people bitch about the original films, or not even the original films, but the newer films not following the character arcs that they wanted to. And obviously over the given years, as you're waiting for the next time to see these characters, sometimes that anticipation doesn't build up to that point. And I can understand that in that part, but for me, it all builds up to feel very seamless and actually real. And it actually makes me sad to see that, you know, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. She's phenomenal in the Princess Leia role. It's sad for me to see that we won't get the actual conclusion to her character that they wanted to probably give to her in Rise of Skywalker. And I'm curious to see how they handle all that material, because her character seemed so impactful at the end of Last Jedi and how they were going to handle her. And it's kind of curious to see where they're going to go from there. The thing with this whole film, though, again, is those character arcs and that character building. And one of the things that always sticks out to me the most is their chemistry with one another. And one of my favorite moments in this whole film, bar none, is everything, the little sequence between Yoda and Luke. When Yoda is going and telling Luke that his training is almost done, and that he's almost a Jedi. He just must defeat his father, Vader. And there's so much more to that relationship as you see as it's developing. I love Yoda. He's one of my favorite characters, and just these small little moments that we get with him in here, and then even within Empire Strikes Back, it all ties in perfectly to Luke's character, which Luke Skywalker is one of the best characters in the Star Wars franchise. We all know this, and I personally really like where they take his character in Return of the Jedi. And I like what they do with him. Everything, that whole palace throne scene is so great. That whole palace throne scene is so intense. but also so satisfying. And everything that you're kind of going about it, especially where you know Palpatine is from the prequels, you know all this buildup, and it's kind of like you're reversed back to watching Revenge of the Sith, but this time it's just with Luke Skywalker. And I like how they handle all these situations so wonderfully, but so masterfully at the same time. Of course, I can't forget to talk about C-3PO and R2-D2. Again, the biggest crux of the original trilogy is how well they use these characters, and it still makes me sad that I look at the newer trilogy and be like, you're not using them just particularly well. They're perfect characters. You could use them so damn good. Also, of course, Billy Dee Williams as Lando Calrissian is perfect. As I'm watching this, I'm like, I totally believe that like Donald Glover was the younger version of you. I'm in the minority. I think Solo's a fun movie, but that was, bar none, the best part about Solo was Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian, and you can feel it in here as well. And this whole film ends up leading to an emotional conclusion as they destroy the final Death Star, but it's everything that happens with Darth Vader. The satisfaction that he finally turned back to the light side. Something that we know will probably happen in Rise of Skywalker with a certain character, but we're not going to get into that right now. It feels so satisfying in here. Seeing Anakin's journey from the prequels to the originals, and actually seeing what George Lucas wanted to do, is quite satisfying. And at the same time, frustrating with some terms, but I overall really like his journey as a character, and I think it makes so much sense as it goes into Return of the Jedi, which I think is a lot of fun. Now, while I've said it's a good movie, it's a really good one, I do have my qualms to it, and my one issue with this movie is the story structure. The way Empire Strikes Back ends, you're like, oh god, how's it gonna go? And then within the first 25 to 30 minutes, they tied it all up and got us onto the next journey. And for me, it just feels how Empire Strikes Back is such dire, like, hopelessness. It's very hopeful in the beginning of this, which is fine, but it was very different. Like, they kill Jabba, they save Han, they get us onto the next planet and get us going. Which is fine, but it just feels like the story structure and the way they placed it isn't always my favorite for Return of the Jedi. And I think the Ewoks are adorable, but sometimes they do drag down the pacing with certain of their sequences, and I think some of these could have been taken out. I do understand it's opening up the world and mythology and showing us the culture of them, but I do think you could have cut out a couple of those scenes particularly well to kind of help with the pacing of the movie. Pacing does feel a little bit longer than some of the other Star Wars films, but who cares? Before I give you guys my final thoughts and my score on Return of the Jedi, I'm going to pass it over to Austin. Austin, take it away.
Zach, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this review and help you talk about this awesome Star Wars film, this trilogy capper. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Austin Burke, and I use my hands too much. So let's talk about this movie, man. I was so excited to go back and rewatch this just for this occasion and really reimburse myself into this world. And Return of the Jedi does a lot right. Is it my favorite in the original trilogy? Not necessarily. Are there things that kind of maybe lead into prequel-ish elements of the prequels, and I'm just like, well, maybe you could have scaled back on that just a tad bit when we get into the Ewoks and whatnot. Don't get me wrong. I like the Ewoks. I'm not saying I don't like the Ewoks, but it gets a tad bit on that level of what we were fearful that it could turn into for the prequels, and for some inevitably did, but those are just minor nitpicks for a film that really showcases the end. Well, what we thought was the end to Luke Skywalker's incredible story, this journey to becoming this Jedi, this Master Jedi, who he walks in first frame of the film, or first frame of his screen time of the film, and just dominates every aspect, both physically and from an acting standpoint. Mark Hamill has gotten progressively better through these movies, and he really is. We know he's a talented actor now. He's a great actor, a great voice actor, but he really showcases in this film what we knew he would do. And then, of course, bringing back Han Solo. We all knew it was going to happen. We knew he wasn't going to stay in that carbonite forever, but he's back, as well as Princess Leia, who is better than ever. I mean, everyone is so good in this movie. C-3PO, R2-D2, the entire squad. And what we're doing now is we have to take these guys down. We have to take down the Emperor, we have to take down Darth Vader, and Luke Skywalker basically has to fight every intuition that is telling him to go to the dark side, to lean into what his father has been telling him for the past 2 movies. Didn't even know it was his dad for like a movie and 3/4. More than 3/4. But it was so incredible to see this progression of both characters. Luke going from what he was to what he is now at this point in this film, to Darth Vader, slightly acting on his emotions after everything that he's been through, especially since we know all that he's been through now. That character interaction is so integral to what Star Wars is now, man, and I do believe this movie has the best lightsaber duels as well. Maybe the best overall duel is the duel at the end of Empire Strikes Back, and of course, we can't forget about the Phantom Menace. It's easily the best part of that movie. But Return of the Jedi, they're all throughout. The action scenes are just fantastic. The race through the forest was so much fun. Our team kind of splitting up and coming back together, and each one of them getting their own character development progressively throughout the entire movie. And even though this isn't my favorite in the trilogy, I do believe this is the best in terms of individual character development and capping off. I mean, obviously, it's the end of the trilogy, so it's going to cap off storylines, but it does such a wonderful job of giving you a payoff for each individual character, and it really did feel like the end, especially that big celebration when the fireworks are going off after everything is all said and done. And we can't forget about the tender moment between Darth Vader and his son when he takes off his mask and the line delivery and just his charred face after he was electrocuted by Emperor Palpatine, and it's heartbreaking after everything that Darth Vader had done, being this giant face, this evil embodiment of power that everyone had been fearing throughout the galaxy after what he did in A New Hope, to be laying there as his son is holding him, and to feel that kind of emotion, man, it's incredible how George Lucas, well, he didn't direct this film, but his storytelling, how he managed to make you feel one way at the beginning of the trilogy and a completely different way in this movie, and it's just incredible. It is everything that you wanted to see in the sequel to Empire Strikes Back. Now, are there some things included in that everything that you wanted to see that maybe I wasn't the biggest fan of? Sure. There are more moments in this film than the prior two, in my opinion, that did not work, but the moments that are fantastic, including the space battle. The space battle in this movie, well, multiple space battles, but the attack on the second Death Star is one of the most intense moments I've ever seen in sci-fi history. No joke. Billy Dee Williams is another standout in this film, and of course, Peter Mayhew. Rest in peace, my goodness. Carrie Fisher, Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew. I mean, it's so sad looking back on this cast, and seeing where we are now is exciting. You know, I mean, we still have Star Wars. Disney brought it back. Is everyone on the same page? No. But where did it all spawn from? It all spawned from this original trilogy, what George Lucas brought us. Richard Marquand directed this film, and he brought an interesting take on it, one that felt a bit different from Empire Strikes Back, but Empire Strikes Back is the dark middle chapter, kind of like The Dark Knight. This film had to be a bit lighter, had to embrace the fact that it was wrapping things up in a nicer bow than maybe some people wanted, but you have Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, some of the greatest heroes in history. You had to cap this off in an exciting way, in a way that was very heartfelt towards the end, and then you see those Force ghosts at the end, from Yoda to Obi-Wan to now Darth Vader, and it was just a wonderful moment, and the nostalgia that I felt going back and rewatching this movie, and just seeing how this trilogy ended off on a fairly incredible note, guys. Return of the Jedi is Return of the Jedi for a reason. It is one of the reasons why this trilogy is considered an awesome trilogy, is because it didn't come out and just kind of downgrade the previous two, right? We've seen that before where movies come out and it makes the other two movies look bad because it's so bad. This is not that. I love Return of the Jedi. Once again, it is probably my least favorite of the original trilogy, but that's like saying, Austin, which kid do you like the most? I mean, I don't have kids, but I have a dog. And I love him. I'm going to go really high with my score. I'm going 84% for Return of the Jedi. Love this movie. It is easily one of my favorite Star Wars films up until this point. And Zach, thank you so much for having me on this channel. You guys check me out on YouTube, Austin Burke, talking all things movies and Netflix and streaming services, whatever. I'm doing the thing. But be sure to subscribe to Zach Pope, man. You're awesome. You review movies with a passion, man. And that's all we can ask for on this platform. I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thank you so much, Austin, for joining me for Return of the Jedi. Again, guys, make sure to comment down below. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you guys like this film? Did you not? Let's discuss it down below. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button while you're here. Make sure to go head over to Austin's channel. Leave a comment and let him know that I sent you over there. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. But, of course, a big thank you to you and my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. The Jedi is a very satisfying conclusion to the original trilogy. While I have issues with the story structure and maybe some of the Ewok scenes, I still think they're adorable. I don't care what you say. The action is very satisfying. It's emotional, it's intense, and at times it's very energetic. This is a very paced movie This is a very energetic and hectically paced film. As all the action sequences are going on, this truly feels like a war going about it. It's a Star Wars. That's what it is. It's the conclusion to the original trilogy and everything within it. Palpatine's death is satisfying. That whole throne room sequence is intense, but emotionally fulfilling. And Luke Skywalker himself is a fascinating character. Same with Leia and even Han. To see where they have progressed from the original trilogy to this one is absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot wait to see Rise of Skywalker. So with all that said, I'm going to give Return of the Jedi a B+. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this film. Did you guys like it? Did you hate it? Let's discuss it down below, guys. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this video. Make sure to head over to Austin's channel, and I'll make sure to catch you guys soon for Force Awakens review. Thank you guys again, and until next time, may the Force be with us all.